Right at it. Right at it. Oh, he's done it again. Just as he did at the John Deere for his first win.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's another episode of the Go Get That podcast, episode 65. A new season is upon us. We're here for the Sentry preview, a tournament that Jordan will be playing for the second straight year. Tournament of Champions is kind of a loose name now, as it's now the Tour Championship event. But it's a cool event, really cool golf course. We're joined by fellow Twitterer and podcaster, Mr. Andy Lack, who I've been following for a very long time. We've been trying to get him on, find the right time, and this seems like a perfect excuse to get him on, start of the new year. He has a pretty brilliant golf mind, to say the least. One of the best Twitter golf bettors I've seen out there. Helps me with my Go Get That picks every week. So welcome.
I appreciate that, guys. Bob, Jordan, Dan, it's an honor. I have been outside of the nuclear network. I have been a absolutely massive advocate for tracker accounts. I think what you guys do is admirable. It has certainly helped save me a lot of time when I'm on the road and I'm trying to follow one of my favorite golfers, and you guys all happen to be doing that for one of my own favorite golfers. So happy to talk Spieth with you guys. Happy to talk golf in general. Let's get into it, friends.
Absolutely. This is now this is the start of the second full year that we'll be podcasting on the PGA Tour.
Congrats.
Yeah, so we started last year at the Ryder Cup. So we got to do all last season. We're basically going to keep it the same. We have a few guests on the in the queue that we're waiting on, but it's good to have Andy here. Jordan and Dan, any thoughts?
Yeah, we
into it?
Again, just a big thank you for coming on, and specifically being a big advocate for trackers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of big accounts on Twitter that give our little tracker community crap.
It's dumb. It's dumb.
I mean, clearly we've gotten interactions with Jordan. Jordan's team knows us, so like to all those people, we
As
got
they
some
should.
context that you don't. Not to brag or anything, but we're still here. We've gotten to meet some really cool people, and this is, again, as Bob said, only our second full year, and we have got some pretty cool guests lined up. We've already had some in previous episodes, and we're just really pleased to have you on, Andy.
Appreciate that, man. Wait, quick question for you guys. Was there like a big Spieth fan account before you guys that you guys kind of had to like grapple with to find your footing in the Twitter
Well,
there still is,
but so obviously my expertise is more Twitter and Jordan's is more Instagram. There was a big Spieth tracker account on Twitter before, and his lack of tracking was actually one of the reasons I got into it, and people quickly flocked to my account, which is nice because I wouldn't recommend anyone use his account for any updates. He's not very reliable, and this isn't just being me. I'm happy to promote other Spieth trackers if they're worth the promotion. We're all in it for the same cause. But yeah, there was a little bit of a competition to begin, but he's gotten older. He's just kind of done his own thing.
There's one on Twitter too, and that's.
I said Twitter.
No, I thought you said Instagram.
No, I said Twitter. I don't know of another big Spieth tracker on Instagram.
Well, definitely was one on Instagram, because for years I was trying to find one. I was like, there's got to be somebody that like does this stuff on Twitter, on Instagram, and I think there was, but he didn't do anything.
We have our mini beef with the original Spieth tracker, but like as Bob said, I mean, we're all 21 and younger. He's a grown adult. I assume he's in his 30s. Like, I get it, not having the time to provide updates, but I mean, we've obviously moved past that, and we're just enjoying what we're doing. Bod reached out, at the Ryder Cup a couple of years ago, and we're here, and we're loving doing it.
Yeah. I just like talking golf. It's fun.
It is
I'm
fun.
glad we're back. Like the Sentry is a weird.
It
Seems like
is.
there's 2 or 3 spots where the new season starts.
Mhm.
It's like whatever that first event is. That used to be the Greenbrier. I don't know what it is now.
Yeah, that's like the unofficial start, and then there's the Sentry, but then there's the Farmers.
Sentry, and then the Farmers is like the official start.
Yeah.
But
But
I don't
yeah,
know. So we're at the second of 3 starts, and should be a good week with some interesting names on the leaderboard and guys that maybe wouldn't normally get a chance to come play here, just given kind of the flexibility with the FedEx Cup points and getting into East Lake and all the qualifications for the tournament this year.
yeah. So we can start off with Spieth, as we usually do. I don't really have many expectations going into this week. It's usually last year was a little bit lower. I'm like lower winning number than it usually is. This year it'll definitely be a little more in the 20s. I forget what it was last year, but the
34.
weather was what?
It was 34. Cam Smith was at 34 under last year. Ron was
Yeah,
at
it definitely. I don't think it'll be that this year. But
yeah,
again,
there's a little more wind in the forecast from what
for
I've
sure.
seen.
Yeah, I've seen a lot more wind, but I definitely have heard that it's going to be relatively calm in terms of the like firmness. I have heard they didn't really firm it up that much compared to what they tried to do last year. That was a complete failure, as Cam Smith kind of embarrassed the golf course. But then again, it's almost 8,000 yards and plays like it's a pitch and putt in some situations just because of the elevation. It's a really cool tournament. It's not one that like you think of being like, oh, he won the Sentry Tournament of Champions, so he's this much more elevated than he would have been. But it's still a fun tournament to watch. Jordan has won this event before. Was it this course? I forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
16.
Yeah. It's yeah.
Yeah.
So the one I'm thinking of is the Sony Open that's changed courses. But
You mean the Hero, right?
No, I mean Sony. I know he didn't win Sony, but I know he shot. What did he shoot at Sony? He did win Sony.
No,
He didn't.
No, I don't think he's won Sony. He's
No,
played
he's
with
not
Will
won
he will
before.
this year when he plays it next week.
I'm blanking, but he should play Sony. Yeah. Oh, so I'm thinking of the
Hero.
The Hero. Yeah, the one where he went like 30.
When he was just at the absolute top of his game.
Yeah,
He won by
that's
8
what I'm
strokes.
thinking of. It's
Like,
the Hero that changed. That's what I'm thinking of. So yeah, I don't have many expectations. I haven't really seen anything that like would make me think that there's any expectations to have. But Jordan, I don't know.
what do you think of Andy? What do you think of Spieth this week?
Yeah.
I actually do like this course for Spieth.
Yeah.
In the sense that, like, in my opinion, one of the things that Spieth has always struggled with throughout his career, and it's gone through kind of peaks and valleys. There was a stretch last year where he was actually driving the ball great. And he has picked up distance, by the way. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but
for
like,
sure.
There's kind of this idea that like Spieth is short compared to the other elites, which like, yeah, he is short compared to John Rahm and Rory McIlroy, but last year Spieth ranked like 42nd in driving distance. Like,
compared to the overall like relevance of the tour, he's a decently long hitter. Like you'd call him a long hitter before you called him a short hitter for sure.
Yeah, 100%, plenty long. So I do think that he can keep up on this course, and not even that distance is like that huge of a deal here, right? Like we've seen guys like Patrick Reed and Zach Johnson, who are both shorter than Spieth, have a ton of success. And I like the fact that the fairways are 60 yards wide, because Spieth can get a little loose with his tee balls at time to time. And I think the other reason to be optimistic about Spieth this week is, like, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but there's this like massive correlation between Kapalua and Augusta, where it seems like all of the guys that play well at Kapalua also play well at Augusta, whether it's Cam Smith, Hideki Matsuyama, even guys like Zach Johnson and Patrick Reed have won. Dustin Johnson, Xander Schauffele, John Rahm, all of those guys have either won or played excellently. Justin Thomas have either won or played excellently at the Masters. And you could say, well, what do you expect? All the best players play this tournament and all the best players play the Masters. So is it really that much of a coincidence? And I would come back with the argument and say, yeah, I think it is. I think there's some stylistic similarities to both of these golf courses. If you watch Kapalua on TV, you are going to notice that there are a lot of undulation changes. There are not a lot of flat lies, and that is completely the case at Augusta, right? And Spieth has talked about at Kapalua before where he likes that creativity aspect. Like, as you guys know, Spieth can be, when he doesn't get too caught up in his head about his swing, like when Spieth is at his best, he is a field player, right? Like, that is why he's so good at links golf. That's why he's had so much success at British Open, where it's not target golf, right? It's, it's there's this creativity feel aspect to it. And I think that's what you get a little bit at Kapalua, where you're never going to have a flat lie. It's not a lot of shots that you're going to be able to practice on the driving range. And those are the type of spots that, like, I want Jordan Spieth at.
Correct.
Yeah, I think our podcast listeners are really going to enjoy hearing you talk about Spieth and being optimistic this week, because we're coming off an episode where we were, going over this upcoming season, and there was a lot of negativity on our part.
Yeah.
It's crazy that the three guys that run the podcast are more negative than you, Andy. So,
well, you look at the
I'd love to
stats.
hear that.
You look at the stats, and obviously now I'm a models guy. This is now the second podcast that I've been looking into models, and so all the models that I've been looking at and doing have the top three comp courses being Augusta, Craig Ranch, and Nine Bridges.
So yeah, two of those are great spots for Spieth.
So, I mean, Craig Ranch, Spieth has obviously come very close to winning there. Augusta, he's obviously won. And Nine Bridges, he's had a pretty good history at. He has a top 10 in a few tries. That's good news to me. The only comp course that was like my fourth one that I sort of picked up on is Congaree. That also kind of was one for the hero. And he's obviously never played well there. But, I mean, still, I like those courses overall. It's all sort of comes to the basically theme of wide fairways and tricky greens. So that is where Jordan Spieth has thrived historically. But then again, putter needs to heat up a bit. We saw him putt really well at the President's Cup, so we'll see if he can. He didn't really build on that in the fall, but we'll see if he can get something going on the right foot.
The only thing about those courses, though, is that they're all played in like the spring when he's seemingly playing better. Because when has he played well in the fall / early winter?
Fair enough.
And
It's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, basically when he's won this event, right? Like he hasn't. You're right. It's been a lot of. I mean, there's a couple. Like, remember when he kind of asserted himself back onto the scene after a little bit of a prolonged slump? Like, that was at Phoenix, right? Like, remember that Phoenix a couple of years ago where it's like, oh, wait, is Spieth back, right? Like, so, yeah, I mean, I agree. I feel like these guys, if you're at the level of Jordan Spieth or Dustin Johnson or Rahm or Xander or any of those guys, your entire strategy is peaking for the majors, right? Like that is what it comes down to for those guys, which is, part of the reason why you see Spieth probably play well at Craig Ranch. Actually, honestly, I mean, he just plays well anytime he's in Texas. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I think there is reason for cautious optimism for Spieth this week. He's not my pick to win, but I don't think he's going to flame out and finish dead last either.
Well, just for some background, Dan is a massive TPC Craig Ranch fan.
I think it's the best course on tour.
I hope this is a bit, because you need to explain to me why you think that, because to me, I think it is a pitch and putt and an embarrassment to Dallas.
These are strong words.
Can you tell me tell me one thing that's interesting to you about TPC Craig Ranch? Tell me one thing that challenges the players at TPC Craig Ranch.
I mean, the the false front on 17 green is just brutal.
I can't believe you even knew that.
I mean, no, I don't know. I just the way it sets up, the bunkering. I mean, the creek in front of 18 is perfectly placed. I can't think of a better golf course.
Well,
It should host the President's Cup or a Ryder Cup. No, I don't know. Craig Ranch is what it is. I think it gets screwed by being in May. I mean, it's not a fantastic golf course, but if it was in April, I think it would play better, and I will stick to that. But
do you live in the area? Are you a Texas guy?
No, I
Okay.
don't.
You just ride for Craig Ranch.
He lives for Craig Ranch. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know where we were before Craig Ranch, but trying to think of other Kapalua things of what we were talking about.
Well,
but yeah, it's like we had like these low expectations last week, and talked a little bit about just this lack of feel, right? There's no more feel in the game. And we kind of saw this new like practice swing the other day in the match. And I was just curious because I don't think we talked about it.
No, we should talk about that. I agree.
If you guys were thinking about that, because it's also very weird.
Yeah, so he's been in Hawaii since probably at least Wednesday of last week. And I guess what's cool, like I'm not there at Kapalua, but like it's very easy to get access to the players there. So there was a video of him on the range probably about last Thursday, and he's always got this practice swing going, but I mean, he's got this new one where he's bringing the club back and he's literally like hitting it on his shoulder, just trying to feel it out. And I mean, I guess the good news, it looked like he flushed the iron that he was hitting on that swing, but I mean, it's always tinkering. It's never, confidence that he's going to go up and strike the ball. And I think, I know Dan, at least me and Dan are nerds. It's just gonna be nice to get some strokes gained data back this week to see how he's actually progressing. Because we haven't had that since the Tour Championship, because he didn't play. You don't get it at Hero. Obviously not the match.
Probably.
So
yeah, Congaree had some.
It was gross at Congaree.
It wasn't good numbers, but I mean, it's been
approach numbers were atrocious.
That's October. I mean,
I feel like we see different things every week now. Like,
Yep.
I really don't know what to expect about any part of his game this week. I'd more say that this is sort of just like a week where I just want to see. I want to walk out of this week feeling good about his game, not really necessarily about picking up a trophy here. I don't think this is a trophy he needs to win anymore in his career.
It's a season long race for the FedEx Cup, not a 1 week race, right?
But another thing we always talk about, usually in the Sony or Farmers episode, is how bad of a warm-up course this is because of how different it is from every course coming up.
Yeah.
So like whatever we see this week, is that really something that we take into consideration going forward? I mean, these greens are historically extremely slow. And you really can't tell anything about driving accuracy, even when you miss the fairway, because you might have landed in the middle and took a bounce left about 60 yards. Because I mean, it's a fun golf course, but it's not really previewing what we're going to see in the next few weeks.
Yeah, but I'd say it could translate momentum, though. I mean, Cam Smith won last year, had a great year, right? So I think it's a sign of kind of where the game's at in general. Like if you can win a birdie fest,
you're doing something right.
Yeah, you're doing something right.
Yeah, Andy, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the course? I know you do a write up on Rick Run Good every week, so we can link that in the bio if it's on your Twitter, so I can find that.
Yeah, you can.
If you want to subscribe, I think it's a few bucks a month.
It's not bad. Yeah,
it's I promise you, it's worth it. I pay for it every month. So
thanks, man.
I do want to hear your thoughts because you usually do a deep dive into the course. I know you agreed with me on most of the comp courses, so I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think like the defining feature of this course is the fact that it has 59-yard wide fairways, which, I mean, just for context, that's 3 times the size of Harbor Town. So, like, think about if Harbor Town just added a fairway on either side, like that is how big the fairways would be at Kapalua. And to be honest, it's pretty damn easy. right? Like the only way that this course gets really tough is if you get wind, right? And we've seen it happen from time to time, right? Like I think in 2020, Justin Thomas won at 14 under par when we got a ton of wind. Last year, we got absolutely no wind. And that's where Cam Smith won at 34 under par. So I think actually, I'm going to flip it back to you guys. What do you guys like Spieth on harder or easier courses?
I'll take the high
That's-
road here. I talk about it all the time. I like a course where this winning score is like 11 to 14.
Yeah.
I think I like Spieth on harder courses
I
too.
think Spieth is definitely better on courses that run about 12 to 14 under
Yeah.
par, just as Jordan thinks.
Yeah,
But at the same
because
time,
he doesn't have to make a million putts.
Exactly.
at the same time, which is just so depressing to think about the fact that we're talking about him not needing to make putts to win. Like that used to be like his thing, and it's sad.
I know.
But it's more just like it needs to be in the middle for him, and he can win birdie fests. But I mean, again, his putter needs to get hot, which it
Exactly,
hasn't
yeah.
recently. I mean, it's very unlikely. It was very unlikely that KH Lee would have the Sunday he had at Craig Ranch. Spieth definitely played well enough to win that week, and that was a birdie fest.
Yeah.
But then again, I mean, you look at the really, really hard courses on tour, and I mean, he just one of the things that me and Jordan always are on him about, and I don't know if you've noticed this because you kind of have to watch all of his rounds to pick up on it, but he is the worst player when it comes to parring hard holes. He birdies an easy hole or a hard hole, and then he gets to a 480-yard par 4 ninth hole, and he throws away what he just picked up because he just can't make the 6-footer for par, or whether it be he gets himself in a bad spot off the tee. He consistently fails to par hard holes, which you need at like really hard courses, like your U.S. Open courses, your Torrey Pines. So
Like we rag on Justin Thomas all the time, but the way he played the 18th hole at Southern Hills is just, I mean, masterful. Spieth couldn't do that, and Spieth played that hole horribly in the 4 rounds
which was so
he played at
predictable.
Southern Hills. Yeah.
Yeah. I do feel like for example, putting is the easiest thing to change, right? It's the least sticky stat, right? So it's like if you have a major problem with your iron play and a major problem with your putter, it's more likely that you're going to be able to fix the putter in a shorter time that you're going to be able to fix your iron play.
Well, another thing about that is like you see like all the bad like historical players like putters on tour like Keegan Bradley is like all they need is their putter to get hot once every few years and they win, and that's how they make a living. They've won
even
4,
Morikawa
5,
is
6
like
times
that too. Morikawa is a shitty putter a ton of the time, but when he spikes, he wins tournaments.
Correct, and that's sort of what's been so frustrating about Spieth is that it's been over a year, maybe like even more, since he's had a hot putter for a full tournament. I mean, even the tournament he won, he didn't have a hot putter.
Oh, he lost strokes putting at the
end. It was just
it was crazy.
It was crazy because like even Rory historically wasn't a great putter in the past like 5-6 years. Before this year, obviously, he sort of picked it up, but like he'd make a living because he got hot once a week, and he'd win the Wells Fargo or the CJ Cup, and that's where he got his yearly win, and that's what we're missing from Spieth. I mean, we get so hyped about good rounds putting because we just don't see him do it very often for four rounds. Like at Pebble last year, he had 2 really good rounds putting. But then it went cold on Sunday. Yeah. Same thing with the API last year. And I mean, even the President's Cup, like first day he couldn't make a thing. And then the last 2 days he putted so well. And we're just like, well, I'd love, if you're going to turn into that player who wins once a year because your putter gets hot, I'd like to see momentum in different spots where your putter gets hot.
Right.
So that's more where what I'm trying to see in this new season from him.
Well, I think.
Do you guys think that, or go ahead?
I was just gonna say, I think his 2 best like putting tournaments were the Travelers and the Memorial.
Yeah, and I was at the Travelers,
both of which he didn't like play that great.
No, and
Right.
I mean the Travelers. I was
So when it spiked, he still didn't play. He didn't play
yeah.
well.
It's
Everything else went to crap.
brutal.
Yeah.
yeah. It's like you can't put four things, which is also very hard to do. But like the thing about the greats right now, I mean, actually, Cam Smith is a bad example because literally every week his putter's on. But like the DJs, the Rorys, the Roms, like when one or two parts of their game are off, they're serviceable.
Yeah.
And that's like this is a bad example, but like I keep talking about how I'm a Dolphins fan, and like all I want with how talented our receivers are is to have a serviceable backup. And like that's sort of like what I want for Spieth is like if his like wedge game isn't to 2 feet every time he's around the greens and like to 5 feet, then like chips to 15 feet don't work on the PGA Tour on a bad week. Like you need to be able to grind out your bad parts of your games.
Do you guys, last question on the putting, do you guys think it's more mental or mechanical? Do you think it's like he's kind of in his head right now? Or do you think that maybe he needs to try a different putter, or he needs to work with a different putting coach? Or do you think it's more technique wise or in his head wise?
I actually, sorry, Dan. I want to see this week. I think it's fair to because the PNC, like it's meaningless, but like the match, it's meaningless. President's Cup, we don't get data, but like we actually saw some signs, and it might translate to nothing, but in these fall, events or what's the word? Exhibitions, there were some signs. So I'm curious to see how he putts this week. Maybe it'll be good, or we go back to crap. But I think if I had to answer your question, I'd say it's definitely in his head a little bit, especially on the short putts. I mean, it's all in
The
his
short
head.
ones are for sure in his head. I think it's got to be in his head because if it was technique, he'd just be lying to us in a sense. Like his whole persona is, I'm gonna dig my feet in and work really hard at things when they're not going well. We see him on the range at the PGA at Harding Park after
I
a
remember
brutal
that.
74, 76 or whatever it was, just grinding for 5 hours. If it's technique, then something has gone atrociously wrong. So it's got to be mental, and it does not help when you constantly miss 3-footers.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
You know what?
We'll see if that
the
changes this week.
The interesting thing about Spieth is I'm looking at my stats page I have on him for Rick Run Good, and he actually ranks 11th on the entire PGA Tour. This is last season, in a stat called approach putting, which is basically lag putting. It's basically like if you are past, I think, 40 feet, how close do you get yourself to the hole? And he's one of the 12 best guys on tour in lag putting, but he ranks 161st in putting from 4 to 8 feet and 137th in putting inside 10 feet. That is no bueno.
Yeah,
like that 4 to 8 foot range is the most important putting metric, because if you make a bunch of bombs, that's a little bit more determined by luck. But if you see that somebody is strong from 4 to 8 feet, that's the most sustainable putting metric year after year, right? Like that's where you want to be really, really high. And I think Spieth is kind of has it opposite right now, where he's still actually like a really good lag putter. Like he still knows how to read greens. He still has feel, but there's just something going on right now for him inside 10 feet. And that's what needs to be solved.
My problem has always been his reads inside 10 feet. He always tries. That's always been the main concern for me. He's always struggled. He's never been the best putter inside of 10 feet. But even his top of the game, but like for me, it's the trying to find break in a 5-footer that there's just no break. As someone, I forget who it was, but someone said at any course on tour, you can find a way to make a 4-footer without the putt leaving the hole, unless you're at Augusta National.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's playing some of these things and trying to dip them in, I mean, there were points where his stroke wasn't great, and he was pulling putts, but like, I mean, a lot of it's just like the lack of confidence to put it in the back of the cup. Like he tries to dial these in and is like, oh, just worst comes to worst, a 2-putt. Like that's not how you win on tour. And obviously we're over here on the other side of the screen trying to criticize him, but that's just what we see from a fan perspective. And I obviously know that no one wants to get back to where he was more than him, but it's easy to pick up on. I feel like it's a constant thing every week. I mean, it's a different thing every year. Like for one, like before the resurgence a year and a half ago, it was he was making every 50-footer, but he couldn't make a 6-footer. And this year it was every 15-footer was short in the heart. So it's just like, it's a different thing every year. I don't know. I want to see this week. Well, I want to see this month, really. I want to see him here and at Sony, and hopefully
Is he playing Sony?
He should. He's not committed yet. I would find it very hard for him to not play just because I doubt he plays the Farmers. But I also find it very hard to believe him not playing Farmers or Sony. So
Sony's annoying. Like most tournaments put out a list of like early commitments and they like don't.
Yeah.
So like it's a very good chance we won't know until Friday at like 5:00.
Yeah.
Which is annoying, but like I think I speak for all three of us. Like we really want him to play Sony because that course I think fits his current game at least
very much
a little
so.
bit better than
I
Capella.
agree. I would absolutely agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd assume Sony will. I don't know. Do you think it'll have a good field, Andy? I'm not.
I
Maybe
think
this
it'll have
year?
an okay field. It's not an elevated event, so it's not going to have a crazy field, but it always has like an okay field. Like I'm sure Hideki will be back to defend his title, but I don't think it's going to, like, for example, if Spieth plays, I think he'll be probably one of the biggest names. I think he'll probably be in the, 20-1 range, even if he doesn't play well this week. It's a very winnable tournament for him.
JT.
I mean, he gets
right. Like
he's
JT
on the
used to play it all the time, but he hasn't recently. So I'm not sure if JT shows up.
This is what sucks for me, and it's sucking all the money out of my bank account. But his odds have recently been extremely bettable. Like last year, even. I mean, I know Elise and I already have a ticket for him that we got 25-1 at the Masters. Like, if you had been told that it's 6 years ago that at this age he'd be 25-1 at the Masters, I mean, that's crazy to think about. And I think I don't think no matter how bad he's playing, he should ever be above 20-1 at the Masters. I mean,
That's his,
and I wouldn't be shocked if those odds aren't out there anymore. So
gun to your guy's head, do you think he wins a major this year?
No.
No.
Oh.
I know
the courses don't set up good. We kind of talked about this in our.
I know I
yeah.
picked him for the Open just because I feel like no one's talking
Liverpool
about him.
does. I think
Liverpool
and
is a good course for him.
Liverpool and Augusta are his two best shots.
But I don't know. I
think,
need to be proven something. Like even
he'd be lucky to play the weekend at the US Open.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I'm curious. I've played LACC a couple of times. I'm curious to see how they set it up, to be honest with you. I think they could go a couple ways with that, but like
I found the yardage actually. They posted the what it'll be if you wanted to hear.
What is it? 774, something like that.
7381.
Yeah. It's not short. And I will say the good thing about it is that it is firm and fast. So it plays a little bit shorter than the yardage would suggest. But when you get fairways that are rock hard, that also makes the fairways a lot more narrow. you're going to need to drive the ball really well at LACC. Really well at LACC.
Which he's
So,
been doing, in fairness to him. Like that's
Yeah. He had a stretch last year, guys. I forgot what the tournaments were. I can look it up right now, but he had a stretch last year. Yeah. Heritage, Byron Nelson, PGA Championship, Colonial, where he gained over 3 strokes off the tee in 4 straight starts. Like, that's unbelievable. If Spieth is gaining over 3 strokes off the tee in 4 straight starts, like, at least one of those should be a win. And I mean, you saw during that stretch, he went first, second, 34th, 7th. So, and the only reason why it wasn't better is because he wasn't putting well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
And I think
go ahead.
no, you go.
I mean, we're all of the belief that if he putts like he did in 2021 and the ball striking stays the same going into this year, then he'll probably win twice. I mean, we all 3 had him winning once. But I mean, if he can just get back to his 2021 putting and, hit it how he hit it last year, then there's no reason he can't win twice and be in contention at, the majors and a few other tournaments.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, obviously the Masters was a kick in the gut last year, but like,
Yeah.
there is still
For Xander too. That was a tough Masters, man.
Yeah, there still is 3 courses on the schedule that I fully believe he can win at with like his B- game, and that's
Agreed.
Pebble. Augusta definitely a little hard just because it's a major, but it fits him so well, and he can putt his way to a victory. And then
Colonial too.
So
Yeah.
I mean, those 3 courses are like
not
the 3
Craig
events you always
Ranch?
have circled
Craig
because
Ranch.
what'd you say?
Not Craig Ranch.
I don't think anyone can B- their way around there, to be honest, because you have to make so many birdies.
That's fair. And
I think
you
he's
know,
a good I think he's a good bet at match play too.
I
Ooh.
agree with that, and that's actually
Yeah.
my that's like my second favorite course on tour.
Yeah. Austin's cool. I agree with you. I like that course too.
Such a sick course. So yeah, I was actually just there a few weeks ago, touring Texas. So it's that's a really cool city and a really cool golf course. I'd love to see him win the match play. That's like one of my favorite tournaments all year too, just because of the
Me
format.
too.
I'm a huge match play advocate. I think that it's since it's the way golf was originally designed to how it was originally designed to be played. I know obviously now it's not necessarily the best way to figure out a winner or the most deserving winner, but I do think it's the most fun way to play. So I would love to see him win the match, but man, that would be electric. Just like, I mean, it feels like, the playoffs, like in a sporting event where you're just like, get to the next. So it would be so sick to see him win the match play.
Yeah, that would be a good one. Anytime, again, like, I think he's just going to be a force to be reckoned with in Texas for the rest of his career, right? It's
Correct.
just something about those style of courses. He just seems to feel super comfortable about it. And the good news for him maybe going forward is that the PGA headquarters have moved to Texas. And so there's going to be all these PGA championships coming up in the next 2 decades at like PGA Frisco and Omni Barton something, but there's going to be a lot of, they just moved the, now of course those courses are like 7,800 yards. But there's going to be a good amount. There's going to be major championships in Texas going forward.
Correct. I agree with that.
We joke all the time he needs to play every, round he gets that he can at PGA Frisco.
I agree. He should make that his life's mission. Like, that's going to be the biggest week of his career, I feel like, if he hasn't completed the slam by then. I mean, that's like the
pressure though, like that's Rory at
it's tough, man.
Portrush pressure.
It's tough.
Or was it Portrush?
Yeah, Portrush.
And Jordan handles pressure amazingly, as we know. So I think does anyone have any more thoughts on the course? Get into some other players, betting picks. It's up to you guys. What do you guys have?
No, I mean,
Just
go ahead, Dan.
I was just gonna say one quick little tidbit or thought. Over under on Thursday, we see 2.5. I might set it 3.5 of those. Like, he hits the putt and then he goes after it and he's like hit it, Jordan, or something like that.
I'll take
3.5.
I'll take the over. They're slow greens. There's no chance he gets any putts the hole on Thursday. I mean, I hope he adjusts, because that's another thing that's always frustrated me. Jordan has never adjusted to greens mid round, like ever. I've never seen him adjust to greens mid round, which is like so frustrating because like I think a lot of it has something to do with the stubbornness of him. Like he's so like he has such a unintentional ego built up about like his putting because of how good he was. Like that when he has his eyes set on a putt, he's like, all right, this is it. Like why do I have to adjust? Like this is like, because he still believes he's like one of the best players in the world, which is the right way to believe. Because like I mean, that's how
you
that's,
want him to think.
you want
that
him to
way.
believe that.
Yeah.
So I think it's got to be over. He's gonna leave so many putts short, man. Hopefully he can adjust the rest of the week.
He's been there for like
He has
3, 4, 5 days already. So I mean, he should be getting a good feel. That's
He
the only thing I
has.
got. I mean, it'd be nice. He's more than due, especially for a good first round or just really a good round.
I would love a birdie before a bogey. That's always my go-to
Well, he's bogeying that first hole.
goal.
So.
I know the first hole is like
Yeah.
one of the hard.
And there's the penalty shot on 18 looming for sure. So, I mean, that duck hook 3-wood is just, it's in the bag like no other.
Michael's gonna tell him to lay up, and he's gonna, rip the head cover off, and
Yeah, just like, oh God.
he's done that before, so it wouldn't be the first time he's, hitting the crap on 18.
Yeah,
But
Jordan, you had something to say, right?
no, I'm ready to get into our bets.
All right.
New season of bets. So that should be
Yeah.
fun.
So
Fresh start.
Dan, did you add your fourth bet to the
I have not added my placement.
Okay. Well, we can go over the rules since this is a new season. We will have the punishment for last place by Pebble. Well, we still have to figure it out. We need like a punishment for last place because last year I blew everyone out of the water and I didn't get anything for it. So
sort of.
we're doing we're doing 100 points per week. And you guys can take the points as dollars if you want to put these bets into action.
So you agree that all the rules on the doc are official and finalized?
Yes, they're official and final. I agree with this. So 100 points per week for normal events, 200 points for every major and the players, because the players just means more.
Especially the Shoffley. Isn't that his big event?
I don't know if you're like this, Andy, but we're huge haters of the Players Championship because it's what the PJ Tour wants it to be a major and it just never will be.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys. I never get super pumped for Players Week. It's an interesting golf course. Like it's a golf course that can create drama coming down the stretch. I really enjoyed the final round last year just because there were so many moments that were like, oh shit, did Cam Smith blow? Like it can create some nice drama, but I think like the 17th hole is the most overrated hole.
I agree with that. And I'm not a huge fan of the course. I do think it has a really good finishing stretch though, but 17 is not is by far the worst of the last 3 holes, I feel like.
Oh yeah.
They should move it to Craig Ranch.
Yeah, there's nothing that gets me hyped more than the yellow players man hitting a virtual tee shot.
Old man.
Gold man on
Gold Boy,
on ESPN Live. So 100 points per week for normal events, including the FedEx Cup playoffs. Last year we did 1 outright, 1 placement, and 1 wild card. This year we're doing anywhere from 3 to 5 bets. You have to have an outright, you have to have a placement, you have to have one that's not one of those 2, and then you can have 2 others, whether it be placement, another outright, another wild card, whatever you want it to be. The players in majors will be 5 to 10 bets, with at least 1 outright, same rules. The official rules says that Bob cannot win the season-long race. I guess I didn't read the fine print, so we're gonna have to take that out. And the final place participant at the conclusion of the Tour Championship will blank, as we'll fill that in before Pebble. So I have 4 bets this week. Andy Lack is a huge better on Twitter, so I'd love to hear his takes on all of these. We'll try and keep it moving. So Dan, if you want to start off with your bets. We'll just do everyone gives all their bets at once,
Yeah.
and then we'll hear his thoughts.
Sounds good. I still have to figure out my placement bets. But I've got some points down on
Do you want us to go
Finau
first?
and Xander too. Can you not hear me?
Yeah, did you
No,
want
do you want us?
I
Do you want us to
can-
go
I can hear
first
you.
while you figure out your last one?
No.
Okay.
Ooh, okay. Respect it.
I'll just because I'm gonna I guess both of these can't hit because it's two outrights, but they're all gonna hit. They're gonna be in a playoff. Finau, Schauffele, playoff. No, but I've got some points down on both of those guys. I think obviously Xander, it fits him really well. And it seems like he's probably got some confidence from last season, winning twice. Like he actually knows how to win golf tournaments now. So hey, this Xander week and Finau obviously killed it last summer. And long course, if it's going to play a little softer, the extra distance certainly doesn't hurt. Greens maybe a little bit slower. Seems like Finau can jam in those 3 or 4 footers that, at least on Sundays in the past, have maybe been a little nervy. So I like those 2 plays. And then I have it going to a playoff because I think this is just a course where birdies can happen. And you could get somebody winning by 5, but my guess is that all of these guys' games are probably in somewhat the same like area of not their best stuff, but their B plus stuff, and that will get us to about 22 or 23 under, and we'll get 2 or 3 guys to play an extra hole.
I mean,
That's as an album.
that's a really interesting bet. I mean, I guess that's not one I would take. I can't wait to hear your reasoning on that. But what's you have 40 left to put on your placement. What's that?
Yeah, I'll get those out when I get them out.
Oh,
I'm
so you're
still
not
just-
announcing them right now?
No.
Interesting.
Viewers are gonna be pissed, but
Yeah, I
you know,
think
you gotta do
there's
what
gonna
you
be
gotta
a
do.
riot.
Well, the viewers, yeah, okay.
All right, I'll go next.
I'll-
since-
I'll-
Well, hold on. I want to hear Andy's thoughts.
Okay, yeah.
On
I'll
those
get
2
it.
winners.
I mean, I'm never gonna argue with Xander. I actually do. He's not my pick this week. I mean, he
Who was
will
your
be.
pick? You can say.
You want me to give mine?
Yeah, we
I
already
think-
have our bets put down, so we're not going to change everything. Yeah.
Okay, I think JT takes it this week. I mean, the case is pretty simple. He's one. Are you guys JT haters?
Yeah, we're not JT fans at all.
I'm not as much of a JT
So
hater, but
I'm like curious about that because he's like Spieth's best friend.
Well,
because Spieth has never Mito Pereira handed JT his second major on a silver
Yeah.
platter.
I mean,
And
I would
Spieth would
I
have the
would
Grand
push
Slam
back,
by now.
I would
if it wasn't
push
for
back
Jason
on
Day.
that a little bit, considering that I don't know if you guys remember that PGA Championship, but there was a giant weather draw where one side of the draw got
That's true.
basically played
Spieth got
almost a stroke
screwed.
easier. And
let's not act
yeah,
like
and
Spieth would have won.
And JT came out of the harder wave.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
He did.
well earned. He put together one of the best rounds of the tournament in the worst conditions. So I know Mito collapsed. Do not get me wrong. He will have nightmares about that tee shot on 18. I think it was, I can't remember who said it, might have been Kyle Porter, but he was like, it looked like his body got electrocuted
Yeah.
mid swing. But JT came from the way worse side of the draw and had way worse conditions. So I think he earned that one fair and square. And he played an incredible 18th hole in the playoff against Zal. Like he stepped up to the plate. Anyway, I digress. I like JT a lot this week. I like JT on courses, any course where you have room to operate off the tee, because I think the big miss is something I tend to worry about with JT. And obviously, it's a pretty easy case considering he's won here twice. So I don't really have to talk too much about the course fit, but this is a guy that by age 27 had racked up like 14 wins on the PGA Tour. And then over the last 2 seasons, he's basically just won one time, and it's been one of the 5 biggest events of the season. I think he's going to start padding his resume with some more of these easy W's. And I think it's a really good course fit, and I think
Yeah.
he's due to win one of these.
Yeah, so part of the JT hatred, well, one of it comes from like people saying that he's Spieth when he's just like when Spieth was in a slump, they started to say that like JT was what Spieth was supposed to be when that's just not true. I mean, Spieth still clears JT all time by his resume still clears him by quite
100%. And
quite a margin.
Spieth's like more. Wouldn't you agree that Spieth's a bigger star than JT?
Oh, it's not even an argument.
It's not even close.
Not an
I
argument.
agree.
I mean,
completely,
the stars are, and I guess we might not have time on this podcast, but I mean, at some point we're gonna have to discuss that article from ESPN from Mr. Shabak.
Wait, I didn't see that one. What
So
article are you guys
basically,
referring
it's
to?
25 most influential names in golf, and Jordan Spieth is nowhere to be found.
Are
Phil
you
Mickelson's
serious?
ahead of Woods. Daniel Kang is like 8. And then Nelly Corda's like 25. That's
insane.
embarrassing.
What did Spieth finish in the PIP? Third, fourth?
Third? Yeah, I mean it's always
Yeah.
the faces of the tour, and I would have argued that Spieth was bigger than Rory before the live, but now obviously
Yeah.
Rory has him. But I mean those are the two stars. Those are where most of the fandom comes from now.
Spieth's a bigger star than Rahm, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, not even close.
There's
Yeah.
no doubt that Spieth and Rory are the ones who draw the most fans, and they're on a complete besides Tiger, obviously.
Yeah.
and they're just on a different level than the rest of the tour. But yeah, I mean,
No one.
and
tunes
another
into
thing is
Pebble
just
Beach
like
because it's all speed. That's why people watch Pebble Beach.
yeah, there's like
Right.
people would not have
And Colonial, probably, you could argue as well.
Colonial's a little bit of a better field, but like still, I mean, it's still not.
Yeah.
Which sucks because Colonial, even though like
It'll get elevated.
This is very biased because I'm a huge fan of Colonial, even though like
Me too.
every course that's like Colonial I dislike, but it's just because Spieth plays there that I like it. But it's more just like it's historic because I'm a huge Torrey Pines hater.
Me too. Huge Torrey Pines.
Oh, I
hater.
love that. That's a
huge Torrey Pines hitter.
great
Well,
take.
Colonial's getting a big restoration,
Yeah.
by the way.
Correct,
So it's
yeah.
Gil Hance, who is like, he's the guy that changed Southern Hills and changed the country club, and he's really, really talented at taking these old school courses and kind of beefing them up to fit tour pros better without really, kind of losing the integrity of the original design. So I'm excited to see how Colonial looks this year. I think it's going to be a lot better.
Yeah, I think selfishly, just the way Jordan's played, I don't really know if I want it touched, but I get it. And then just another thing on JT, and then I'll get into my bets. The media today, and this is, I guess, a selfish thing, they fawn over JT. I mean, they love themselves some JT. Like
they love Spieth though too.
No, here's my thing though. Hear me out here. You look at the interview schedules nowadays. JT gets one every event, and you barely ever see Spieth.
Interesting. Well, I mean, JT has been playing better.
Spieth's still the bigger name though. Like,
I don't disagree. I think
it's more the fact that like JT, his wins are like it's so on brand for him to win like limited field events. And say what you want about, and I know that this is a really tough take, but like besides I don't care how good the field is, besides the alternate events, any full field event on tour is harder than a 72-man WGC or like that's just
I agree. I agree.
Anyone can get hot. The winning scores are usually the same at all courses, no matter how hard the field is versus how like someone gets hot every week. And the strength of fields does not equate enough for how many less players you have to play against. So, and then again, I mean, the way he won the PGA was just like kind of very on brand. I mean, of course, his 2 majors are the least prestigious, and it's the same major twice. Like it's just a lot of it's on brand for him, and some of it's a joke. I mean, he's a great player, but like he's just not what the media like makes him out to be, which is sort of what gets on our nerves.
Really just
okay, let me ask you this question. When it's all said and done, you think Spieth will have a better career than JT?
Yeah, because I think it's becoming so hard.
I think it's close, to be honest with you guys.
I don't think
the omen is on Spieth.
I don't think JT wins more than 3 majors, and I do think Spieth gets at least one more in his career.
That's fair, and Spieth has a head start too.
Like to win 2 majors is so tough nowadays. Like there are a lot of really good players. Like I mean, I I use Xander as an example, but like Xander, Morikawa, like those players, like there's a chance they never win a major again. Same with Spieth. I mean,
I
there's a
know.
chance. I mean,
Yeah.
besides like
There's too much parity now. The
there's
talent
so
pool is
much
too
parity.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Spieth has enough of a head start where I don't think JT will dominate him the rest of his career. But I also think that if JT gets, regardless of how many PGA Tour wins, I think if JT's third major is the PGA again, I don't think he's past Spieth at all.
100%.
To win three
Yeah,
different
it's
majors is
way more impressive.
way more
Yeah.
impressive than
Yeah.
people make out to be. It's not just
Yeah.
about the number, but to do it at three different types. Completely. I mean, Augusta, Chambers Bay, and Birkdale are just three
Birkdale,
completely
yeah.
different courses.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And he's got a built-in shot at Augusta like every year, right?
correct.
Yeah.
Whereas like I mean JT kind of the same, but
No,
it's not
JT's not a
near the level. of
JT is a
Spieth.
classic.
No, I mean,
Once like 430 hits and he's on the 12th hole, that's where he fades on Saturday at the Masters. So
He does. He has to. He's had
he's a
some. 'Cause
huge fader on Saturday. I'm telling you.
I bet him almost every year at the Masters, and he
I love
always-
those.
He
That
always
last
freaking
year
finds a way.
I
Yeah.
put the hammer down on the Saturday matchup. I forget who we played, but like whatever the betting matchup was, he was against, and it was a no sweat winner. Because I
Yeah.
mean,
Well,
he faded so hard.
Yeah.
He was like
He
he went
was
to the day
like-
T9 and finished like T37.
he was lurking in 21, and then that rain delay hit. And
Oh
then
yeah,
obviously-
that was funny.
out.
Do you guys remember that? There had the rain delay and JT was like in the middle of making a charge. And then the second they get back on the course, he flubs a chip into the creek on
Yeah,
the par 5.
You
And
hate to
it's
see
like,
it,
okay,
man. I mean, that's just
there
terrible.
goes JT's chances of winning the Masters.
yeah.
You
Any
hate to see it.
concern over him getting Sobel this week?
That's so funny. You guys are in tune with that. You guys are because that's like a big part of my betting
That's amazing. So,
universe,
like-
but you guys are in tune with that. It's funny. I'm actually playing golf with Sobel this weekend.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's coming down. We have a big like Rick Run Good business thing, and he's coming down for our draft. And
Are you in like Rick? Are you guys all from the same area?
no, I mean I'm from New York. Rick is from Vegas. No,
But you're
idea
living on the
where
West Coast right now, or
I live in LA, yeah, but I'm from New York originally.
Fair
No
enough.
idea where Sobel's from, but Rick has basically started this fantasy. Like he's basically said, like, okay, fantasy football is so freaking successful. Why doesn't fantasy golf season long exist? So we're basically like pushing this giant season long fantasy golf thing, and we're gonna do kind of like a big draft with a lot of the bigger, media guys and Sobel's. And we're meeting up in Vegas next week all to do it. And Sobel's one of them. So
Sobel's a funny backstory because, like, again, Elise, we have her on here for the majors. Like, she's like our go-to better for the podcast, and she's got a huge thing against Sobel's picks for some reason. It's like
I don't blame her.
now
I've got to meet her because I feel bad. I feel bad if she listens to me.
It would definitely be interesting to have you guys on at the same time because she's one of the best like golf bettors I've ever seen. And you're
cool.
You're right up there too. But she's
anytime, guys. I'm there whenever you guys need me.
Yeah, but so I don't even know where we were, but
I can get into my picks for this week. So I'm with Dan. I think Xander wins this week. He's got the form, plays well here. And then we mentioned the course comp.
Oh, man.
TPC Craig Ranch. I have KH Lee. He's the first round leader merchant. He's the
he
TPC
is a
Craig
first
Ranch
round leader
merchant. He's 41-1 to be the first round leader in a limited field.
Yeah.
He comes in with some decent form too.
I also have an FRL, so
I like KH Lee as the first round leader. And then I have a top 10. I got Tom Kim.
he's a good pick this week.
I don't think him playing a new course scares him at all. He's got the moxie, he's got the form, and like you could say last year was his breakout year. He could top that this year easily. He'll have the chance to put himself in the majors this year and really make a name for himself. And then a top 20 I got just because I kind of like the odds was JT Poston to top 20. There was plus money. He I was looking at his form. He not he finished T11 in 2020, the only time he was here. He's started slow with the putter this season in the 5 events he's played this FedEx Cup season. But when he putted here in 2020, he gained 1.4 strokes gained per round on the greens. That was just kind of a little fun play that I threw in.
I like it.
Yeah.
He's a microwave. When he gets going, he gets going.
He's an
I'd love to know
underrated
what your
player.
thoughts are on Mr. Poston. That's just a weird pick in my opinion. I didn't see anything on him anywhere. I didn't even know he was playing, to be honest. What did he even win? Oh, he won the Mr. Deere, didn't he?
John Deere. He won John Deere. Yeah, he wasn't, to be totally honest, he wasn't on my radar really, but I haven't even gotten into, I do a lot of my, figuring out what I'm actually going to bet on like Monday night, Tuesday morning. So I'll give him a luck. I'll give him a luck.
Yeah. I'm going with my outright 20 to win. I think 22 to 1. Cam Young.
Yeah.
I
He's
like his course fit and value in a limited field. Again, he feels like he's due to win, and I'm going to keep betting him. Same with Zalatoris last year. Finally worked out. And hopefully this one works out too, even though he kind of seems like a guy who could be a Ricky Fowler long term. But I don't know. I like him 22 to 1. So I have 20 on that. I have for those of you guys who followed last year, I made my winnings usually by putting a majority of my balance on one bet, and that's what I did this week. I put half of the balance, 50, on Adam Scott, top 20 even money. I love the value there. He's great from long range. Has a great greens hit percentage from over 200 yards, which is a huge thing this week. I have him top 10, 20. I think that's plus 135 or plus 115, one of the two. I love that. I love him this week. I didn't know what to do him. I was thinking to do him in a second outright, but I like the safety of the placement. And then my FRL, which is a first round leader that I went to a lot last year, like almost every tournament he played, is Aaron Wise, and he always finishes like second or third and never gets the first round leader. So I know BetMGM has first round top 5. I don't have that, but because we do all our things off FanDuel and DraftKings. But
are you guys all in legalized betting states?
So Massachusetts isn't legal yet. When I'm down in like Rhode Island, I can bet.
Yeah.
So that's usually how I do most of mine, because Rhode Island's 18 and Jordan, I don't know. What
I'm in Maryland, so we just
Maryland's legal, yeah.
Legalized it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah.
What about you,
Yeah.
Dan?
Yeah, it's good up here in Michigan. Well, I guess I'm not in Michigan right now, but yeah.
Nice.
It's legal where you currently are too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, it is.
I'm the unlucky one in California, but I got my guys that I can text, and they just end up putting it in for me.
Yeah, that's what I did a lot of the time before too, because Massachusetts, it's getting there. It's weird how strict they are about it, and I know that there are a lot of people who are like the non-gamblers are extremely against it. But I don't know. I think that I don't know. I definitely see. I wrote a paper last year, an 8-page paper, my final project on the dangerousness, or that's not a word, but the dangerousness of being able to place bets online on your phone, like in your pajamas. Just like it's way too accessible to be throwing so much, like the amount of money that you have access to that could completely change the economy is crazy in like legalized online sports betting. So I think that's the big problem. Not even like the betting in casinos or like different like hubs, but the online is definitely.
It's very
as much as I'd love to see it completely legalized, yeah, it's definitely an interesting debate. But yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are there. I my favorite play of the week is definitely Scott. I'd pick him on more than just top 20. I think if I had the balance. But yeah,
I'm a big Scott fan. I've always been a big Scott fan. I don't think that he's cooked. I mean, I think that he's didn't he seem to you guys like the most obvious live guy ever? And he
Yeah.
basically said, no, I mean, I care about competing in majors and competing against the best players in the world. And so I think he's still got something left to prove. I wouldn't be surprised if he poked his head out again at a few majors. And I mean, this is a $15 million purse. So if he's not getting up for this one, I don't know what.
yeah,
when
he will
would.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he mixes it up, adds a little blue or Hawaii pink to his like.
I don't know. I wouldn't expect
That's
much
this week.
deviation for Mr. Scott this week.
Yeah.
I
You
kind
know,
of going back to our last pod, I mentioned in our like season preview, Liv has been quiet. Like
Yeah.
I know Andy, you mentioned like Scott seemed like the most obvious Liv guy. It honestly wouldn't shock me if he still went, especially with
I've heard otherwise. I've heard otherwise
Interesting.
only because him and Greg Norman are not the best of friends.
That's good news then. I was thinking especially with the new statement that came out from Fred Ridley with the Masters setting the precedent that guys will be allowed. I'm
Yeah.
curious. I feel like there are going to be more guys that still go to live. It'll be interesting to hear. They've been very quiet.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find this article. I can't.
Yeah. But I mean, like, here's the thing. And not to get too deep into it, I could talk about Live for hours, but I did post another podcast about it. Or podcast soon. So I'll give you guys the short version. But, in my opinion, they need to close the talent gap some way, shape, or form for this to continue to get any traction, because they have proven that their roster, while it has really great players, no one's going to deny that Cam Smith is awesome. No one's going to deny that DJ is awesome. Tough to kind of see where Brooks and Bryson's game is at, but we've seen their ceilings. But like, in my opinion, they need Cantlay and Xander, because if they can get Cantlay and Xander, which are two bona fide top 8 players in the world, then suddenly you start looking at it and it's like, okay, now the talent gap is pretty close, right? Like, right now, if you were to play a Ryder Cup style match between the PGA Tour and Liv, I think the PGA Tour would kick their ass. But if you add 2 of the top 8 players in the world to Liv, suddenly the talent gap gets a lot closer, and you can't even make those arguments anymore, because basically the big main argument for Liv is, oh, it's so stupid that we don't get official world golf ranking points when we have the best player in the world. And it's like, okay, yeah, you have Cam Smith. And like, yeah, DJ's probably should be ranked higher than he is. But like, if you add Cantlay and Xander to that mix, like, I think that it very much evens the talent pool. And then the PGA Tour isn't even allowed to say anymore, all right, you've got some guys, but the best players in the world for the most part are still with the PGA Tour. So I don't think Mito's changing anything. I think they need to land 1 or 2 big fish. And if they don't, they're in big trouble.
I agree. Did you guys ever read this list? Like the full list of the most influential people in golf?
I mean, I don't know every name, but
there's one name on here that I like started laughing out loud at. Coming in at number 20, Beth L. Freeman.
Is that the judge?
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that
great.
Crazy?
That's great.
Justin Thomas comes in at a mild 11th.
Yeah, I think he's probably closer to 15, but yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, Steve is.
Andy, you consume you're like us. You consume tons of golf content. What would you say about ESPN and the way they cover golf?
I don't take their golf coverage very seriously. I'm a huge Kevin von Valkenburg fan. Like,
I'm a huge fan of his too.
Yeah, he's their main golf writer, and I think he does really great work.
I agree.
But like I get sent from friends all the time stuff making fun of ESPN's golf content. Like,
it's
for
awful.
example, they did like a majors preview article and they said something about Cameron Young will be playing a home game in Rochester at Oak Hill. And it's like, yo, I grew up where Cam Young grew up. It's like 6 hours from Rochester. It's the same distance as if you were to say, like, it's the same. Cam Young from where he grew up to Rochester is that you might as well say it's a home game at Oakmont or the country club because it's closer to Pennsylvania than it is to Rochester. So it's just like stuff like that where it's like, I don't know how I'm supposed to take it seriously. And like, they don't have the betting thing figured out. Like random people on Twitter that have 500 followers know more about golf betting than the guy that they are hiring at
That's so
ESPN to
true.
write
Like,
about
actually,
golf
now that
betting.
I'm thinking about it, like, not just golf, like CBS Sports,
Yeah, it's
like,
bad.
but like
It's bad.
CBS Sports has figured out the betting. Like ESPN, there's very little betting content on
No,
ESPN.
there's none at all. No, there's none at all.
And betting is becoming such a huge thing in sports that like
Huge.
that's a huge audience that they're missing out on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's crazy. Now that I think about it, I they don't even not about the NFL, not about really anything.
No, I know
Yeah.
it's a joke.
It is. Do we have anything else?
No, I mean they're well behind for the worldwide leader in sports.
Oh yeah, true. But is there anything else, Dan, Jordan?
No, we're blessed to have you on, Andy. I know you've
Absolutely.
already said you'd be willing to come on again.
Anytime you
If
guys need
Xander
me.
wins, we'll have you on for sure.
Oh, please. I hope so because I don't think Cal will go on podcast yet. So I'm happy to be like the Xander liaison. If something big in the world of Xander happens, I would love to get him on. You could bring us both
I think
on.
I could get him on.
You think you could get him on? Okay, perfect.
I think I could. And he knows a lot about golf.
He does, and he's pretty good. I've played golf with him before.
Yeah, he is pretty good.
He's pretty good.
Yeah,
he's like young and he's still a kid, so he's not hitting the ball a mile, but he's got
he
a
doesn't
really
hit the
good
ball far.
He's got a really good short game.
Because that's how I used to be.
Yeah. Well, we got to play because you're a pretty good golfer yourself, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. What's your handicap?
I am a +0.2.
Okay, Jesus, I'm a 3. You're giving strokes to me.
Yeah. I didn't play like that in the fall, but over the summer I was playing really good. That was like my peak. I felt in the club championship. I played my best friend who's going D1.
Hell yeah. Well, do you have? Yeah, I was gonna say, do you have aspirations? Last question, because I do have to get out of here and eat some dinner. But do you have college aspirations?
I don't really want to play college golf because like I
Sure,
really want to go to I really
enough.
want to go to a big school, and I know that like I'm capable of playing like D2 or D3, but like
Yeah.
I'd rather just play club wherever I go.
Yeah. For what it's worth, I walked on to Duke and quit after a week because I was like, and I got offers. I got offers to D3 places like Amherst and stuff like that, but I had my heart completely set on Duke, even knowing that at best I could walk on the golf team.
Yeah, I mean wherever I go, I'll try out. But like again,
and I got to the team and I was like hitting balls next to Alex Smalley, who's on the PGA Tour right now, and I was like, yeah I can't hang.
It's crazy. But yeah, it's would have to play. I know I'll be out at because my family runs the Pebble tournament, so I'll be out there.
Oh wow!
Sometime in the next few years. Yeah, so my uncle runs the Memorial and Pebble Pro-Am. So
oh wow, sick.
I think we're going to. It's just too much because I've already been traveling so much for school that I don't think I'll be able to get out to Pebble this year. I'll almost definitely be going to Memorial.
Well, let me know anytime you're in California. I live in LA mainly, and New York too. If you're ever in New York, I just joined Oak Hill actually as a junior member. So yeah.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I got one last question for you. Are you going to be at LACC for the US Open?
Oh yeah, it's 5 minutes from my house.
Okay. I have plans to be there. I was at Brookline. With
Okay,
Bob
awesome.
too,
Hit me up.
so-
You have Twitter, right?
I do have Twitter. I'm mostly on Instagram, but I do have a Twitter account.
Okay,
so-
cool. Yeah, hit me up. It's 5 minutes away from my house.
Gotcha. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. I don't think Jordan will play well there, but U.S.
Yeah.
Open was sick. I said Bob and I were at Brookline last year.
Brookline was so cool.
so fun.
Yeah. But thank you for coming on, man. It was a blast. I know we got a lot of positive feedback from saying that you were coming on. A lot of people are huge fans of you. You really have a brilliant golf mind. So it's always happy to have your input. We'll have to get you back on at some point, but thanks for coming on.
Awesome. Appreciate you guys. Cheers, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.
Peace.